Good afternoon. It is 5:30 on the 17th of October. Welcome to the Cabinet meeting. So we will make a start. Start off with housekeeping, if I may. We're not expecting any fire alarm testing this afternoon. In the event of an evacuation, you'll hear a recorded message requesting you to evacuate the building. Please leave by the nearest exit and the Riviera Centre staff will assist you. Once outside, please assemble in front of the tennis courts to the seaward side of the building. If I could request that mobile phones and electronic devices are turned to silent. And over to the clerk, who will explain the process behind tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Chair. We are operating hybrid meeting arrangements with officers and councillors who are not members of the Cabinet having the option to join the meeting via Zoom. And we are also live streaming this meeting via the Council's YouTube channel to encourage more people to engage in our public meetings. Please can I remind everyone to use their microphones when speaking and turn them off when finished. Please can attendees present in person refrain from watching the live stream or joining the Zoom link, as this will cause interference for our viewers. Anyone attending the meeting remotely must use their raise hand function when they wish to speak and to declare any interest at the appropriate time. If anyone attending the meeting remotely loses connection, the meeting will continue and they will have the option to follow the meeting via the YouTube live stream. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Item 1 is apologies. Confirm we have no apologies for this evening's meeting. Item 2, the minutes to confirm as a correct record, the minutes of the Cabinet meeting on the 19th of September. Happy to propose those from the Chair. Councillor Lewis.
Happy to second, Chairman.
Thank you. If your microphone would be helpful next time. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Item 3, disclosure of interests. If any member has a pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest, please indicate that now. Thank you very much. There are none shown at this point. Urgent items, I can confirm we have no urgent items, so we will move straight on to item 6, Regeneration Partnership and appointment of a development partner. Thank you, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Chairman. It's an exciting time for Torbay, both residents and businesses alike. This is the appointment of the Council's Regeneration Partner, and the recommendation is shown in the report on page 4 that Proposal A is approved. When we were elected in May, our priority was delivery for the Bay. Delivery and delivery at pace. Those were our main priorities when we took office at the beginning of May. We also stated that we couldn't do it alone. We needed partners to be able to deliver. And Councillor David Thomas, the leader of the council, visited the REEF conference in Leeds just days after the election, meetings that had been put in place by the previous administration. So credit to them for putting that in. We now have a preferred partner following that conference, preferred partner of approval A. We need a partner that has the expertise, experience and determination to help us deliver for the Bay. We will also be appointing a new senior officer to support Alan Denby in delivering our capital projects. We are determined to deliver and deliver quickly. As far as partners are concerned, we also have probably our biggest partner to date since May is the government as a partner. And I'd like to pay tribute to our members of Parliament, Kevin Foster and Anthony Magnall, for making sure that our voice is heard at Westminster. And as many will know, over the past few weeks, Torbay has been given an extra £40 million for economic regeneration to help deliver our projects and our priorities and make Torbay a better place to work, live and visit. We stated in May that it was going to be about partnership, and it is about partnership. After tonight, I hope that we will agree that we go forward with our preferred partner A. Hopefully we will get the extra funds from government, and I hope that this report, this proposal, will be cross-party. We need to work together, and we see it very much a partnership with all on the council. And I ask for the Cabinet's support in agreeing the recommendation as outlined in the report. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm happy to second this report. I think hopefully this evening we'll actually all be on the same page within the council. This is a direction of travel that was started by the previous administration. The guys set up the meetings in Reef. I was able to, obviously, a change of administration. It was along the similar lines that we were looking at, which was absolutely ideal. We were able to pick up that and we're able to move forward. We've spoken heavily about the Regeneration Partnership that we need within Torbay, and tonight's Cabinet decision hopefully will put us with that regeneration partner. Now, at the moment, there are quite a number of exempt appendices that are attached to this particular document, and it is a little bit of a shame that we can't shout from the rooftops the name of the partner who we wish to work with. However, there is some additional work and a contract that needs to be worked up. So as long as the decision goes through this evening, it means that we'll be able to do that work and hopefully return next month with the exact details of that particular partner's name. So I believe that we're all on the same page. I believe it provides a fantastic opportunity for Torbay, and I'm delighted to second this particular proposal. Recommendation is as printed on page 4 of this evening's papers. So let's move around the Cabinet table. Any debate, any questions, or anything that anybody would like to say at this particular stage? Thank you, Councillor Tyman.
Thank you very much. I think I just wanted to say and put on record that I think the two proposals that were put in the papers that we've been able to see were from two organisations that showed that they put quite a lot of thought into how they could work with us going forward. I think they both showed a good, maybe not perfect, but a good understanding of Torbay and its issues, its strengths and its weaknesses. And I think that in dialogue with the preferred partner, we'll be able to strengthen that understanding over the coming weeks. I see this as a real opportunity going forward to work with a body that actually wants to understand our needs and do its best to partner with us to give us more capacity than we've currently got to make a real step forward. So it has my full approval, even with the understanding that there's quite a long way to go to getting them fully up to speed in understanding what's needed, working with us, and for us to seeing how we can maximise the benefits from this partnership.
Thank you. Thank you very much. At this point, I'll move outside of the Cabinet, invite Councillor Darling to the table for any views or thoughts or questions you have, sir.
Thank you. And I'll get the negative out the way to begin with, which I think it's important that colleagues have a bit of a reality check. Whilst £40,000 from central government over a decade is welcome, we do need to make sure the public are aware of the more than £700 million of reductions over austerity that we faced as a local authority. So I wouldn't want to sell ourselves short of what that gap is. But to the issue that is genuinely in front of us today, I know that it's almost Groundhog Day, but actually in reverse. I can remember once upon a time when Councillor Oliver came in after a change of administration from one blue corner to another blue corner, and things were binned then. I'm pleased that that isn't the case, that this new administration has been able to build on the foundations that were laid by the Independents and Lib Dems. A couple of areas I wanted to touch on particularly was the place board that is really important. I know that is helping us with our conversations around the Devolution Partnership, and that's showing that we're ahead of the pack, and that's very helpful. And also the work that we've done in respect of making the Torbay story and making the place the hero. And I'm really pleased that last November myself, Alan Denby and also Jim Parker went up to Westminster, this is James Square, and met with a number of partners who we could play ball with, and we presented the opportunities in Torbay through the Torbay story. And I'm pleased that one of those partners who is both of the partners were at that meeting, and the preferred one was particularly engaging there. And then in April, of course, one of the preferred partners was down with us, and it was very pleasing that Councillor Long and I were able to welcome them. So I'm pleased that we're able to build on those foundations. The thing that really excites me about this is that the preferred partner wants to make Torbay the hero that we all know that it is, and that's what it should be about, is actually selling the place rather than purely about a contractual relationship about delivering a shiny new building. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Cowell.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll be brief because a lot of what I would have said has already been referenced by either the Deputy Leader, the Leader, or the Leader of the Opposition. But I think it's fair to say we have a strong, sound base for this partnership moving forward. There are lots of projects that have been developed over the last few years, supported by the neighbourhood forums in our communities, in our business sectors. Getting projects over the line has been incredibly frustrating in the last 3 or 4 years as a result of the pandemic, war in Ukraine and Trussonomics. But I think it's all about delivery. And it's delivery for the regeneration of our town centres and other key capital projects as well. I hope to see a significant contribution in terms of housing, particularly around social housing in the coming years. I and the independent group absolutely would support the Cabinet's preferred recommendation for the preferred partner, and let's hope that collectively we can continue to make this non-political, because it is about the future of Torbay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Any other comments from outside of the Cabinet? Thank you. I'll move back into the Cabinet. Anything else before we move to the vote? Thank you. Councillor Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm absolutely delighted to hear Councillor Darling and Councillor Cowell support this. If we can all work together for the regeneration of the bay, well, then I believe we can achieve great things. So that's made my evening, and actually to speak after them rather than before them, I'm delighted, because to say thank you so much. It's all about increasing our capacity, as Councillor Tyman said, together with the experience of a large developer to work with us. It was something that was envisaged many, many years ago. And then sadly, we had years of disappointment, and we lost our development partner, we lost our way, we lost our vision, we lost lots of additional potential inward investment. And I think the government and people up the line rather thought that we really weren't worth bothering with. But things have changed, and I think by working together and sending out that clear message that we are all signed up for the regeneration of the bay. That is very welcome indeed. I feel that the stars are aligned for the regeneration of the bay. So we've had incredibly good news on the funding from government. There's so many pots. I hope I remember them all. There's the town deal and the future high streets that came during the time of the previous administration. We have the levelling up partnership money. We have town money. Bit nervous about the town money for Torquay because you want to celebrate it, but it's only coming our way because we are judged as the poorest place in the whole of the southwest. We are the only town that is getting that particular pot of money. So something to be pleased that we're getting that funding, but not so pleased the fact that we were judged so poorly that we were in such need of it. But the stars are aligned in terms of the finance. I think we have the sites, including sites that have been acquired in the last few years. The Debenham site, absolutely. I think people will be very pleased to see the sites, without mentioning anything that's confidential, of course, but there are sites within the ownership of the council that people will be very pleased to see developed and move forward. So it is all about taking the bay forward, working together. The stars are aligned, and I'm delighted to support this recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Billings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak after Councillor Bye on that point, because it was, from my perspective, so encouraging that there was that cross-party support from all three political groups, and that's really good. And recognising the thrust of what everyone's saying, and sort of this is a really good news story, I just recognise that there is still work that we've got to do. There is detail to put around this. And the fact that we are bringing in commercial expertise with these partners that we're going to be working with, that commercial expertise that they're bringing inevitably means that they need to be properly compensated for it. They need to ensure they can make a profit, and we need to ensure, as custodians on behalf of our community in Torbay, that we align their profit with the delivery of the social objectives and the economic objectives that we want for Torbay. And so that work, that's still got to be done later down the line. I just recognise that's important. But in terms of where we are, it's a great news story, and I fully endorse this, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for other members for that cross-party support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go back to Councillor Lewis before we go to the vote.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you to everyone who's spoken. Alan saying two good proposals. They are very good. We could have picked either of them, but we have selected, or hopefully select A. Councillor Darling, I think you got your figures slightly wrong. You said £40,000. It's actually £40 million, which would go a bit further than the 40,000, but I think your point was taken. I think your point about the place board and Torbay's story is very relevant, because when the man from the ministry was down the other day, they were pleased that it wasn't a political football, and that the people around the table at the place board included all parts of the community from Torbay. So I think that went down really well, and it takes the politics out of it, which is why we can move forward from what you guys, which Councillor Dave Thomas started 5 years ago, which has gone through your administration, then proceeding into ours. So that's a really good news story. And I think, Councillor Calvert, it is about delivery, and that's what we are committed to deliver. And hopefully we can all work together and make it happen, because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and one that we can't afford to fail. We've got the money, we've got the partnership going forward. It's now up to all of us as members to make sure that we deliver. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Moving to the vote then. Recommendation is as printed, parts 1, 2 and 3. Bottom of page 4, top of page 5. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. And we move on to item 7. Cornwall Council to join Adopt Southwest. Councillor Bye.
I can't do two things at once. I'm trying to get to the right bit of this. having dipped from one lot to another lot. There are 3 items now that are children's services related items. So if you will indulge me just before going into the first of those 3, I would like to give a plug for Children's Services Practice Week, which is coming up a week commencing November the 6th, to thank those members who have signed up for Children's Services Practice Week. But unfortunately, it is a modest number so far. So I'm hoping that group leaders will spread the word, Cabinet colleagues in particular, those on corporate parenting and those on children's overview and scrutiny will sign up for Children's Services Practice Week, which gives everyone the opportunity to get involved with frontline activities, either virtually or in person, to fit with your own diary commitments and to get a flavour of what goes on in children's services. I would say the most important work that we do for the most vulnerable in our community. Each session that I've participated in recent years, I have found to be very, very rewarding. So that's a plug for that. We now move on to the item regarding the Adopt South West and the proposal, hopefully we'll gain support this evening, to include Cornwall in the Adopt South West partnership. And it's appropriate that it comes to the Cabinet this week because this week is National Adoption Week. So to give it some background, at the moment Torbay works with Somerset, Devon and Plymouth through Adopt South West, which is an organisation that delivers the adoption services for the 4 councils. Devon County Council is the host authority. For some reason, when these new ways of working came about in 2015 onwards, Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly remained outside that arrangement, but they are now applying to join. So it's our job as one of the partnership authorities in Adopt South Devon, Adopt South West, not Adopt South West, Devon, Adopt South West, to welcome Cornwall on board. My own personal view is that working together in children's services with other authorities seems like a very sensible way forward. There are opportunities in terms of media and publicity to increase the pool of potential adopters. Cornwall, as an authority in children's services, is rated outstanding, so I believe they would be a very good partner to welcome on board. The pool of potential adopters should increase, so that would be of benefit to Torbay. We have historically had an exceptional number of children in care. As you'll hear a little later this evening, a recent track record, previous 12 months in adoption, has actually been very good, but we want to increase the pool of potential adopters, and working with an additional authority seems a way of doing that. A very strong case is made, a business case is made in the exempt appendix. I believe it is exempt because of the sensitivities perhaps of our other authorities. We're going to take this to Children's Services Overview and Scrutiny. We can perhaps discuss it in greater depth, the business case there, if members wish. But the finances, in a nutshell, without mentioning any numbers, is that it is beneficial to Torbay. We are in the process, in fact, of concluding negotiations for our contribution to the Adopt South West in a way that is favourable to Torbay, although there is an intermediate transition period, and that Cornwall will be modestly more than paying their way by joining this Adopt South West. The timetable is for ourselves to consider it this evening, the other partner authorities at their cabinets to consider it at the same time. Devon, as the host authority, considers this proposal in November, and for reasons I don't quite understand, but feel free to ask, but somebody else sat with me may answer. Devon County Council then needs to take it to their full council. So it's a cabinet decision for ourselves, but maybe because Devon is the host authority with a particular new contract to draw up with Cornwall, it may be that it needs to go to their full council, and that will happen in December. It should all come to fruition in the spring, early summer of next year. So there's a recommendation in front of us, which I should have to hand. I think I have covered all that has been placed in front of me. If you want me to read out the recommendation, if I can find it, but I would ask Cabinet please to endorse the proposal as outlined to enable Cornwall to join Adopt South West as a full member. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bai. And the recommendation is just there at 3.1, 3.2. Councillor Tranter, I understand that you wish to second.
Yes, I wish to second, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. At this point, I'm going to go outside of the Cabinet chamber. I think hopefully this will be another situation that everybody is fully on board with. Proposed by Councillor Bai, seconded by Councillor Tranter. Councillor Bai, if we could ask you to turn your microphone off, that would be excellent. Let's just move outside. Anybody got a question or any comments outside of the Cabinet table? Thank you. I thought it would be a case of everyone would be on board. So bringing back into the Cabinet table, any concerns? Everybody, are you happy for me to go to the vote? Thank you very much. Would you like to sum up, Councillor Bai?
I'll sum up the debate. I've spotted a note that's been presented to me by our very fine Director of Children's Services, who supports me splendidly, a note in her notes that by adopting this, it would eliminate the additional inter-authority costs for placements within Cornwall. I thought that would be a very small thing, absolutely, to recommend. The recommendation, if I do read that out, I think it is important, we should read it, that the integration of Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly's adoption services into Adopt South West be approved, and that to facilitate 3.1 above, the Director of Children's Services be given delegated authority to enter into a deed of variation with the other existing partners to amend the current inter-authority agreement to the extent necessary to admit Cornwall Council as a full partner. And on this occasion, I will remember to turn off my microphone.
Thank you very much. Nicely leads into all those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Councillor Bai. Staying with Councillor Bai, item 8, Local Authority Designated Officer Annual Report 22-23.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. And this does seem very appropriate to take today, as I have just mentioned and given a plug for the Children's Services Practice Week. I participated in a previous practice week with a session understanding the role of our LADO, our Local Authority Designated Officer. A very comprehensive role indeed, and a very comprehensive report that sums up his role. This is the annual report for 2022 to 2023. A few things I want to say, my own little notes in advance of before reading out the prepared statement. It is 2022-2023 and refers to activity in that year. I think during that year, let me get this absolutely right. There has been an increased workload of the LADO over the last 2 or 3 years, and that each year has increased as the role has become better understood and stronger relationships built, especially with schools and other partners. So on a sort of superficial initial reading of this report, and the particularly large increase in consultations, which I would also describe as referrals to the LADO, people might have some concerns of the scale of the increase of the LADO's work. But I'm referring to page 73, and I hope members will just look quickly at page 73, which shows in 2022 the LADO received 157 consultations, 27 of those met LADO thresholds and progressed to allegation management meetings. In 2021-2022, there were 350 consultations, and 53 of those progressed to allegation management meetings. Then in 22-23, the year under review, there were 410 consultations, but a significant reduction. 30 of those progressed to allegation management meetings. So I took some reassurance from that there's a tremendous increase in the activity and the reach of the LADO. But in the year that we're looking at, 27 in 2021, 30 in the current, or the immediate past year, led to the allegation management meetings. So there's a huge amount of activity, so a greater reach, but hopefully reassurance in that last figure. So I want to read through the report that's been prepared. So the children and young persons... No, that's the wrong one. That's the LADO. That's the one next. The Local Authority Designated Officer LADO report responds to allegations made about people who work with children. The statutory guidance Working Together 2018 sets out the requirements for all agencies providing services for children to have procedures in place for reporting and managing allegations against staff and volunteers. The criteria for LADO involvement applies when an individual working or volunteering with children has behaved in a way that has harmed a child or may have harmed a child, possibly committed a criminal offence against or related to a child, behaved towards a child or children in a way that indicates that they may pose a risk of harm to children, behaved or may have behaved in a way that indicates they may not be suitable to work with children. Whilst there is not a statutory requirement for each local authority to produce and publish an annual report in respect to the work of the LADO, there is an expectation that one is completed to inform both the local authority and partner agencies of the number and nature of contacts over the period and to identify trends and learning from the data to inform any local action plans. So some of the key areas to note is that overall consultations with the LADO has risen, as I've referred to already, but this does not necessarily mean that there has been an increase in harm towards children, but reflects the enhanced profile of the LADO in Torbay. For those who may remember, on our Ofsted inspections in both 2015 and 18, there was concern raised by the inspectors about the LADO and their lack of impact. As part of our improvements in children's services, we have since 2019 raised awareness of the LADO's role in safeguarding children and have had a schedule of training undertaken over the last 3 years. This has resulted in very positive comments from Ofsted inspectors in our inspection in 2022, and many of these consultations are due to the referrer seeking assurance that the LADO threshold is met. The main referrals relate to allegations made against education staff, 21 from early years and 153 from schools. 109 consultations were in respect of our cared for children, 18 in relation to in-house foster carers, 36 in relation to IFA carers, and 55 in relation to staff within a residential setting. What we know is that most consultations with the LADO that are from our cared for children are in respect of allegations of physical abuse, with the second highest category being neglect. Often allegations are made once a child has left placements or during a time of instability. There is ongoing work between the LADO and the fostering service, as well as with residential and unregulated supported accommodation providers. It is important that when children come into our care, they feel safe. LADO is presently overseeing 162 open referrals. This is sometimes impacted, often by length of police investigations. Of those consultations that the LADO has been involved with over the last year, 193 did not meet the LADO threshold, 24 were transferred to another LADO, 7 of which were referred to the adult, seven of which were referred the adult did not work with a child, 24 were referred to another local authority, and 162 are pending outcome. Of the 410 consultations, 217 met the LADO threshold, which means that an allegations management meeting needed to be convened. Some of these meetings are still pending on outcome, but of the 51 concluded, 15 were substantiated. So I hope that gives some detail to the report that is there in front of you. If there are any questions, please do feel free to ask. But the purpose of the meeting this evening is to approve this report so that we can publish it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bye. Councillor Tyman, I understand that you wish to second.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm very happy to second this report. It's one of those reports that one can hardly, having read through it, say that it was an exciting read, but I think this is important and shows the real depth of work that goes on within children's services to safeguard our young people. So, although it may not be exciting, I hope that councillors generally will read this, appreciate what goes on, and just understand the care that is being given by our Children's Services Division to what they need to do. I think this just is so typical of the improvements that have been made in children's services over the last 2 or 3 years. And I welcome this. I say it wasn't an exciting read, but it really informed me of some of the work that's going on. And as such, I think it's an excellent report. So I'm very happy to second this. I'm sorry I don't think it's exciting, but I think it's very valuable. And I think that's the important point to make.
Thank you very much. At this point, go outside of the Cabinet. And I am only left with Councillor Twelves in the room. Do you have a comment? Okay, thank you very much. I will just check online because I noticed we have some people online and I'm seeing no hands there. Any further comments round the Cabinet table? Or Councillor Billings?
I just endorse what Councillor Tyman was saying, Mr. Chairman. This is incredibly valuable work. If one looks at this report and the detail that must have gone into looking at all of these individual cases, yet alone the headline data that we're just seeing presented in this report, that's hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of senior officer time to look into this, and I think it's really, really positive that we are putting so much effort into looking after our looked after children. So I would commend the work of the officers that are behind all this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. In which case we shall move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thanking you. And staying with you, Councillor Bye. Item 9, the Independent Reviewing Officer Annual Report.
Thank you. I just wanted to say before, but I didn't really quite have the chance before you rushed to the vote. I did want to add my thanks to professional colleagues in the preparation of the report that we've just approved, and thank Councillor Tyman and Councillor Billings for their well-informed contribution to the discussion. We now move on to the Independent Reviewing Officer Annual Report 2022-2023. So this is a recommendation that it be approved to enable the Independent Reviewing Officer Annual Report to be published. The intention is to take this to the Corporate Parenting Board to add it to the agenda for the next meeting at the end of the month. It covers the year 31st of March, 1st of April in fact, 2022 through to 2023, and it refers quite a lot in the introduction about and through the report about the numbers of cared for children, and the number being at the 31st of March 314, including for the first time a significant number of unaccompanied asylum seeking children. Since the 31st of March this year, the number of cared for children has reduced. So it is an historic document in a way, and we are now currently down below the 300. I think at yesterday's Children's Services Improvement Board meeting, we were actually down in the low 290s. So members might be interested to hear that we are at a lower number than that stated in the report for March 2023. So that is progress. It's a positive report. I think that the plus sides, before going into the more reasoned written report introduce to members. My impression is this is a very positive report and actually shows the stability in the RIO workforce, enabling better relationships to be built with children and families. I would strongly recommend reading all members the executive summary, highlighting success in health checks and particularly with regard to dentistry. We're very definitely in a better place with staffing. There are still issues with foster recruitment. If you come into the introduction, item 1, there's a very clear explanation of the roles of the Independent Reviewing Officer Service. I think it's interesting to look at the age profile of our children entering in care, which is highlighted, that we have an increase of 9% to 18% of babies coming into the care of the authority. And we have an unusually large number of older children coming into care, 16 and 17-year-olds. If you look at the numbers coming into care in that year, it is at either end of the age spectrum. But linked with item 1 this evening, or my first item this evening, we have had success over this year in the number of children who've gone for adoption and a number of children who have gone for a staying put arrangement with their foster carer families. So when you're looking at the outcomes for children leaving care, we're doing extremely well in this year's report for adoption and for staying put arrangements. Although the more children who stay in staying put arrangements, the more pressure that puts us on trying to recruit new foster carers. There are issues nonetheless with issues of stability. So if you look at the stability of placements figures, particularly for certain age groups, we could certainly do better on that. So the Children and Young Persons Act 2008 and subsequent 2010 statutory guidance requires that each local authority complete an annual report detailing the work of the Independent Reviewing Service for cared for children. The annual report should be presented to the Director of Children's Services, the lead member and the Corporate Parenting Board at minimum, and should also be available as a public document on our website. In Torbay, we believe it is important that all councillors have sight of the work that takes place to support our cared for children, hence bringing it to the Cabinet this evening. The work of the IROs is to ensure that the children's services meet the needs of the cared for children that they have corporate parenting responsibility for. They oversee the cared for child's care plan and ensure everyone contributing to the plan fulfills their legal obligations. 740 cared for reviews were held in 2022-23, and of these 94% were completed within the required statutory timeframes. This is slightly better than the previous year when we achieved 92%. The IROs have an important role in making sure that children who are cared for by the local authority have good outcomes and that children's services have high aspirations for them. Some important areas to note in the report are the increase in numbers of cared for children towards the end of the 2023 financial year. The report shows that in Torbay we had 314 cared for children at the end date, an increase from the 299 at the start of the year. This is due to the increased unaccompanied asylum-seeking children and the impact of the age assessment representations from the Esplanade Hotel. It's also noteworthy that 65% of new cared for children are male. This again is influenced by the unaccompanied asylum-seeking children. And these children are supported by Torbay through both the National Transfer Scheme and representations from the Asylum Hotel being predominantly male. Torbay has quite a high percentage of children placed away from Torbay. However, this remains similar to the previous year's figures, and the reason for this is understood to be often in line with either the child's wishes and feelings or best interests, for example, through kinship care placements, children placed for adoption, or unaccompanied asylum-seeking children being placed in more urban settings. I know there was a number of our unaccompanied asylum-seeking children wished to go to Exeter, for example, didn't they? That was their wish, and it's important that we go along with their wishes. It is important that when a child comes into care that they are that they experience the least amount of disruption possible, and children who move from placement to placement can struggle with attachment, but also these moves can impact on their education and the ability to make connections in the area where they are living. For our children in care in Torbay, we have a small number of children who we have not yet been able to find them a placement that can respond to their very complex needs. This means that our short-term placement stability is impacted on, with a number of children moving from placement to placement. Part of the pressures continue to be the national placement sufficiency challenges and residential providers giving immediate notice. Cared for children aged 13 in 2022-2023 were more than likely, compared with other children of other ages, to experience placement instability, reinforcing the need for ongoing edge of care intervention to support placement stability through investment in the Building Futures team. However, it is also important to note that the work that takes place to secure permanency for Torbay's cared for children has continued to improve, with further progress in adoptions. 4% of those who ceased to be cared for were adopted, compared to 3% in the previous year. Torbay's proportion of children who were adopted in 2022-2023 was significantly higher than the national average, so we are making progress on adoption. The percentage of children ceasing to be cared for by virtue of a special guardianship order was in line with national comparators. This is really positive for our children, as it gives them a secure home environment and a sense of belonging. Also, a high number of those leaving care at 18 who are in a foster placement remain in what is known as staying put arrangements, where they remain in the home of the foster carers post 18. This is significantly higher than the national average. It is important to grow our fostering families so we can keep our children as close to Torbay as possible, and as of 31st of March 2023, 57% of children in foster care were placed in in-house provision, and this has subsequently risen to 65% as of June this year. So we're making progress in finding more in-house foster provision. However, this emphasises the ongoing need to recruit and to invest in fostering. What do we need to improve going forward? It is noted within the report that as a service there is a need to continue to focus on seeking parent and child feedback through additional work on the virtual feedback form, as well as receiving the direct form from families. This will continue to help us improve the services to our children as part of our continuous improvement of children's services. So, as with the other report, I want to commend the work of our team in children's services. Very much appreciate all the work that is done to support our children in care. Ofsted noted our good work as corporate parents. We have a strong corporate parenting board, so I very much hope that members of the Cabinet will endorse and approve this report this evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We have a seconder, Councillor Billings.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm delighted to second this, and thank you very much, Mr. Byte, Councillor Byte, to your extremely comprehensive proposal earlier on. I just wanted to draw out a couple of quick points, though, and reiterate a couple of points that you touched on. This is an independent report, so there's Cabinet colleagues, there's very little for us to look at here other than to effectively endorse the independent report so it can go through the proper governance process going forwards. But there were two key highlights for me contained within it. The first one in relation to the permanency that our cared for children are finding within the placement networks that we're providing for them, and also in terms of the healthcare outcomes, with there being greater levels of immunisation and greater levels of access to dentists, and taking those two things around. So the looked after children are finding a stable home for longer, and the health outcomes within that stable home is being better, and that's really positive. And it's great to see all the other positive contributions that Councillor Byes touched on, and that the independent report explains in significant detail. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm delighted to second this.
Thank you very much indeed. Any other comments in or out of the Cabinet? Anything further from yourself, Nick? No. Sorry, Councillor Bye. Therefore, we shall move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. And we move on to the final item this evening, item 10, and that's the approval to award agency framework agreement. Councillor Tyman.
And I have to say, this is a case where this is not a case in which we've left the most important or exciting item to the end. But nevertheless, it is important that the Council has a framework in place for the employment of agency staff when it needs to. The current framework comes to an end on the 2nd of January 2024, and we're seeking here to give the Director of Corporate Services delegated authority to appoint successful bidders identified through a procurement process to a new framework for a 4-year period as preferred suppliers to the Council and to Swissco for such workers. It's if one looks down and looks at the figures involved, it does seem that we spend a significant amount of money. And I wouldn't want anyone to have the impression that we want to spend that amount of money. In fact, a lot of work goes on in various divisions of the Council to minimise this spend. But it is vitally important that we have the ability to use this framework to employ staff when we need to maintain the service levels required of us as a council. So we may hope to reduce those figures. We work to reduce those figures, but it is essential that we have this framework in place. Having this framework in place does not in any way exclude other ways of meeting demand when that's appropriate. And it has been suggested we look at other mechanisms, and I would fully support that when appropriate. I stated the proposal. I think it's self-explanatory. I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And seconder, Councillor Billings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as Councillor Tyman was indicating, this is a necessary step. We need, as an authority, to have the ability, where appropriate, to be able to rely on agency staff to keep the appropriate levels of service provision that our residents rightfully expect from the council. And therefore, the proposal before us in the report is one that I will be seconding. What is clear, though, however, is we must, as an organisation, look to do all we can, given the very high figures in terms of the levels of expenditure on agency staff, to actually reduce the need to use these services going forwards. And so I think this report both is something we should be endorsing, but it's also something that we should be recognising that going forward, ultimately agency staff cost us more than permanent staff, and we need to make sure that we've got sufficient levels of capacity in the organisation ourselves. So delighted to second this, but just recognise this isn't the full story, and recognising that we need to have a strong grip on the finances. That's something this administration is about, and that's why we're putting this framework in place. But it's something we're seeking, as far as possible, not to have to use to deliver appropriate value for money for all of our residents. And that's why I'm supporting this proposal now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you indeed, Councillor. Any comments from around the Cabinet table or outside of the Cabinet table? Any hands online? Okay, that's no. In which case, I'm happy to move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. And that is the final item on this evening's agenda, and 18:23. Thank you very much for your attendance. This meeting is closed.